Hi everyone, my name's Lee. Welcome to my channel Kola Flipper. I'm a part-time UK reseller. I buy second-hand items, usually at car boot sales and charity shops, and I resell them for a profit on eBay. So today's Saturday the 11th of July. I've been out to a car boot sale this morning and I picked up some random different items. Everything from crystal, men's clothing, ladies' shoes, hi-fi, and a few other random bits and pieces. So I thought I'd take you through what I've picked up today. So the first item I picked up today was this Paul Smith shirt. It's a casual shirt. Paul Smith, definitely a brand to keep an eye out for. Very well made articles of clothing. Shirts can vary sort of £85 to 100 or so new, so really worth keeping an eye out for. Lady had this one up for £5 hanging on a rack. I had a quick look at it. Things to check whenever you're buying any sort of clothing, but especially shirts. Check that there's no staining down the front, and your usual points of wear are going to be around the collar, where if someone's got a stubble, you're going to have wear around the neck collar, on the collar, wear on the tips in the washing machine, tips of the collar, and then wear around the cuffs. That's your typical points where you're going to have some damage. Always check for armpits as well. If it's a light coloured shirt, you might end up with staining there. So I was quite happy this didn't have any staining on it, and I managed to get this for £3. She had asked for £5. Said it. It's my son's who's never worn it, and you can clearly see there is evidence of wear. And she went from he's never worn it to he's barely worn it. I said, well, I'm happy with £3, and then started to walk away. And she said, okay, £3. So yeah, good shirt that. A little bit of colour detail on the inside of the cuffs, make it a little bit different. But it's the little details on the shirt which make a quality shirt stand out. So I'll just show you a little bit closer to the camera what those little details are. So not specifically to Paul Smith, but just high quality shirts in general. These are things to look out for when you're out either in a charity shop or out in the field. So a little bit closer now, and you should be able to see slightly iridescent the button. You can also see that it says Paul Smith on there. Other little things to see are the stitches for the button are in a cross shape, where a cheaper shirt will be done in a different way, which isn't as good. I'll show you an example of that in a moment. So things to look out for: if you've got high quality button detail, that gives you indication this is a high quality shirt, but also less likely to be a fake. Just close up with the label. So, made in Italy. Things to look out for: it's nice square straight stitching on the label. Other little things, so in the side seam, so you've got the shirt front there, you've got the side seam say under the armpit. On the inside, that is called a French seam. It's very neat. It's no rough edges. Where there's so it's a much more expensive, well, not much more, it's a more expensive manufacturing technique which isn't used on cheaper shirts. So again, moody shirts tend to not have that sort of thing. So things to look for: detail on the buttons, and if it's got French seams, it's a better quality shirt. And fakes tend to not have that, but it's just a sign of quality. So here are some other shirts just so you can compare and contrast quality. Box Fresh, it's a fashion brand. Shirts are probably 30 to 40 quid new. Now this one, that same seam, you see it's a much cheaper construction. I think it's called an overlock stitch instead of the French seam. Because of the extra time it takes to do the French seam on the Paul Smith shirt, that's why it is a more expensively manufactured shirt, and therefore it costs more. So that is a sign of quality. This is a sign of a cheaper shirt. Now another example. I've just got your bog standard Marks and Spencer's type shirt here. Now, again, the Marks and Spencer's is good for the fact it's got that French seam on the inside. If you look at the buttons on this, so rather than having the cross stitching on the buttons, this is just punched through. So this is the sort of button that easily pulls out because it's just a machine punching through, and then they can easily work loose. Where when they're done in the cross pattern, they're going through and it locks them in and they just don't fall off. So shirts with a cross pattern of stitching on the buttons are they take longer to make and therefore are more expensive. So it's again another sign of quality. So keep an eye out for French seams and for stitching on the buttons and just button detail in general, and that helps you easily and quickly see between a cheap shirt and an expensively made shirt. Other things to keep an eye out for, so on the collar, I said that you can get collar tip wear. Because it's a dark shirt, immediately obvious, that would impact your sale price. So that's something I checked on that one. And again, you'd make sure you check another place you get wear is on the inside of or around the cuffs. So whenever I get a shirt, check the collar, check the cuffs, check the seams. It just gives me an idea of whether something's got any damage to it, or if it's a high quality or a low quality shirt. So with regards to the Paul Smith shirt, I picked that up for £3 in the end. Profit wise, depends on how quickly I want to sell that. As I've only invested £3 in it, I don't have a problem with that sitting on a shelf 3, 6, 9 months, doesn't bother me. So if I wanted a quick flip, I could sell that for 20, £25 pretty quickly, a couple of weeks without any issue. But I'm happy to, I want my money to work for me. I don't want to keep having to work. The more I have to go to the post office, there's more time wasted. So if that has to sit there for a while, I'll price it a little bit higher, probably closer to the 30, maybe even £35 mark. But I'm just happy to sit on that for a while. So that's the first pickup of the day. Now, my second pickup was this. This is a crystal vase. Basically, it was a trader, and I could see I had a lot of glassware. And as I was looking at some of the vases and the decanters, this one stood out just due to the intricacy of the cut. Picked it up, and the weight of it, this is, well, I've weighed it now, it's over 1 kilo. But you could just tell compared to the other ones that this was a higher quality and a much heavier item, suggesting it was lead crystal. It was pretty dirty, but I could see on the bottom that there was a very, very faint engraving of Waterford. So this is a Waterford crystal glass. It had a £5 sticker on it. We went backwards and forwards and settled on £4, I think. Another little thing I did to check that it was crystal, I mean the weight gives it away, but another little trick you can do is the ring test. So you can hear there's quite a distinct ring. Now with glass, so this is just a bog standard ship's decanter, so with glass, a very dull noise, and you can immediately hear the difference. So, I'll just bring it up so you can see a little bit closer. Okay, so you can see really fine, delicate detail. It's about 6 inches tall. Not going to be out of focus, but it does say Waterford underneath. But yeah, I quite like that. So that was £3. I've had a little bit of look into it. Because of the size of it, because it's only about 6 inches tall, it's not going to command the high values that Waterford can. A big Waterford crystal vase can be up to 100, can be more. Because this one's only about 6 inches tall, it looks like comparables are around the sort of £30 mark. So, but I think just because of the design, I think that one will stand out, and it will also, my price is going to end up, it's going to be a balance of what the comparables are, but how nicely I can take a photo. I'm a professional photographer as well, so I will be able to take a better picture of that than most other people will be able to, and that will make mine stand out from the crowd. So I might put it up for closer to 40, 45, but I'll probably take an offer anywhere around the £30 mark. So after all my fees, if I get around the £30 mark, that should give me around the £20 profit after all fees before tax. So that's quite a nice little find. I'm quite happy with that. So now on to ladies' clothing. Well, in this case it's footwear. Mint Velvet. It's a good quality high street brand. So same sort of quality level as say Reese. So definitely one to keep on your radar. There was looked like a mother and daughter who were traders, and they had quite a few different brands but new boxed stuff. Mint Velvet's good. My wife sometimes buys bits and pieces there, so I've seen how much it costs new. These, as soon as I saw the box, and they had lots of them. Thought this could be an opportunity here. And inside we have current season leather sandals with a stacked leather block heel. Now, these new are £130, and I know that because quite handily it says so on the label there. So because it's got the label, I know exactly which model this is. So this is a Izzy, and I got a brown pair and 2 black pairs, absolutely brand new, got the labels on them still. And coming up for summer, this is sort of footwear that will go out. Nice block heel, makes it easy for stability. Sandal, nice and cool, perfect. Now that lockdown's opening up, this is something that should sell quite well. I asked how much they were. They were asking for £15 a pair. I asked if there was any sort of deal could be done if I bought more than one pair. And they hummed and hawed and settled on, well, they said 13. I tried going lower, but they wouldn't. They said, if we any lower than that, we don't make anything. And I did some quick sums in my head. 130 new, and their current season. I did have a quick look at comparables. People have had them up around the sort of £50 to £60 mark, but taking offers. I should be able to command around, let's say I settle on £50 a pair as a final sale price. After all my costs and all my fees, that should work out about £85 profit over the 3 pairs of shoes. So yeah, quite a decent buy that. But I did have to pay up 39 quid for all 3 pairs. But yeah, should be able to make a decent profit on these. So completely out of my comfort zone on these. I don't know if it was a trader. I think he probably was actually looking at thinking back to the stall. I don't buy ceramics. I don't know really an awful lot about it, but I went with gut feeling on this. It didn't feel like modern china. It feels, I don't even know how to describe it. It's got a completely different feeling. So it's basically some Japanese pottery. Having a look through Miller's Guide, it's a little bit out of date, but it has helped. This looks like it's something called Satsuma ware. So it's Japanese porcelain from I think it was Kyushu area, but as it is now, but it was called the Satsuma province at the time, and they were renowned for doing this sort of porcelain. There is damage, but I think it potentially could have a decent amount of value. Reasons why I picked it up, it looked and it felt old, just the feeling of it. I don't know how to describe it. It felt old. But what made me go for it was the sheer level of detail. This is hand painted. This isn't done by machine. You can see everything is individually hand painted. And anything that's been done by hand generally has a higher value to it. So there is damage to it. So there is chips on here. I'll show you closely in a minute. There's the front of this little dragon is missing. The neck on that one's cracked as well. The other two I think are okay, but it's some sort of I'd say this. Having a look through the Miller's Guide, it looks like it's late 19th century, so 1860s to 1890s. But yeah, something a little bit different. So totally out of my comfort zone. It felt expensive. It felt like it should have some value just due to the sheer detail. So I took a punt. She was asking for 10. I ummed and ahed, put it down, started to walk away and said, look, would you take 7? We settled on 8. So very, very delicately put it all into the tap trolley. But having a look at sold prices, some of them can be, if this is genuinely late 19th century Satsuma porcelain, a similar set to this with less damage went for £440 in 2001. But I don't know whether this has got that level of detail and the quality that the other one sold for, so I don't know whether it's going to be worth that amount. I found another set that sold in the Netherlands, which was similar, had these three, again with similar amounts of damage, but it also came with 6 cups and saucer sets, which were undamaged, and that as a set went for €750. So, but again, at the moment, I don't have the knowledge to know whether this is good quality Satsumowear or poor quality Satsumowear, or whether it's even reproduction. My gut feeling is that it's genuine, but I don't know whether it's good quality or low quality, so I need to do more research basically to figure that out. But at £8, it's a risk worth taking. My gut said that it's worth a punt. We'll have to wait and see, but for £8, if it all goes wrong, it's not the end of the world. £8 isn't going to bankrupt me, so I thought it was a risk worth taking. But I'll just bring some of these up closer to the camera so you can have a look. But it genuinely, the level of the detail, that made my decision. So let's hope it's going to be a decent profit in it for me. Firstly, there's a cup. All this is hand painted. Every little dot and line, everything on there. There's 2 little dudes on the inside. And then you've got the signature of the maker there. It's a dull porcelain. It doesn't look not as white and bright as some modern stuff. You've got the cup saucer even. And again, you've got damage on it. 3 decent chunks out of it. But it's just that level of detail. Don't reckon I can't rate that, but it's the level of detail. And again, the crackling in the porcelain just made me think that this was genuinely old rather than reproduction. And here you can see that the dragon comes through the teapot and then the body flows up into the lid. So you've got this little dude up here. I think one of these had a, yeah, so again you've got little chips. But I just thought that was really cool. So for £8, that was a risk worth taking. Given them a quick clean up, but again, I don't know enough. I don't want to damage them either, so there's definitely research I need to do. But for £8, really happy with that. So this is a little bit of a throwback to pickups from a couple of weeks ago. I've been watching Tim and Mardukes on the YouTube channel over the years, and something that they specialise in their pickups is uranium glass. So it's a radioactive isotope in the glass, and that's something they specialise in. And the reason they do it is because it glows under UV light. So I had this in my mind as I was looking a couple of weeks ago, and I picked up these thinking they might be uranium glass, or they might just be green sort of sandblasted glass. But because I didn't have a UV torch, I couldn't check. My UV torch is turned up. So under the UV light, this one glows a much brighter green, and therefore is uranium glass. And this one picks up the colour from the UV light. It ends up going the sort of the purple sort of colour. So you can immediately see that one's uranium glass, and this one is not. One of the problems is I'm going to look like if I take this out with me in the car boot sale and it's seen that I'm doing this, people will know that I know what I'm looking for and could jack the prices up. And rather handily today, I forgot to bring this with me. There was a box that did have some uranium glass in there. Turns out this is from a set of 6. It's like a dessert bowl. That's just a little posy vase, but that's a set of 6. So on its own, value realistically is barely a tenner. If it had the full set of 6, probably worth something, but on its own that's not. But I quite like the design, so I might end up keeping that, and that cost me £1.75. Today, looking at the uranium glass, again they weren't complete sets and there was nothing fancy. I think the more ornate stuff obviously goes for more, and that's why I was hoping this was going to be uranium glass, but it isn't. But they did have a uranium glass butter dish, and I quickly snuck off to do some comps to see what other values for the sales are, and it looked like a uranium glass butter dish goes for around sort of £35 to £50 mark. God knows why anyone wants a slightly radioactive thing to put their butter in, but that was the sort of prices they were going for. So I went back to have a look at them, and then that's when I noticed it was chipping around the edge. So as it was damaged, I'm not going to pick it up. I just don't have the time for it. So yeah, so that's my little update on the uranium glass. And now for my final pickup of the day. This was lucky. This was due to a comment on one of my previous videos. Basically, I did a George Ross style action cam at the car boot sale type video, and I picked up. Basically, it was one of the viewers had commented that I'd picked up a Sony hi-fi, but I dismissed a stack of other ones, the hi-fi separates, as cheap brands, and he pointed out one of the ones that he noticed in there and said, just mentioning what this is, just give it a bit of research. And so I did, and I dismissed it thinking I'd misread the brand. This is actually by a company called Sansui, and I thought it said Seisho. Seisho is a cheaper brand that make, you know, your £10 cassette Walkmans, not a very good brand. I mistook these, and that's what I thought these were. These are actually really expensive. So we've got an integrated amplifier. So this is a Sansui AE, so the A is for amplifier, AE 770. Got a graphic equalizer, so that is a GE 770. And then we've got the tuner for the radio, so that's a TE 770. Basically, the same guy was still selling these. So this last Saturday is when I did the GoPro footage. I saw the comment in the week, and I thought, I wonder if they're going to be there again this week. I went back, and as I walked in, it was the third stall along. They were stacked up, but the seller was nowhere to be seen. I spoke to one of the other sellers next to him, and he said, oh, he's off buying at the minute. I said that I was interested in these, so I picked them up, popped them around behind his car so they were hidden from everyone else, and basically hoped that I'd better come back and get them later when he'd finished buying. So every time I went, it was a one-way system, so I couldn't keep going back. Every time I got to the end of the row of cars, I was trying to look through to see if the guy was there, and he wasn't. And I ended up doing the entire car boot sale before I could get back to these. But then I guess the other benefit was that if I was doing that, everyone else, hopefully if they'd seen them, had forgotten about them by the time they got round. And because new sellers were still turning up, at the very last couple of rows of cars, that's where the crowds were. So they were waiting for people just getting stuff out of the car. So after I'd done the full rounds, we went back round to the start again, and the guy was there. And I'd mentioned, oh, I'd put these aside. Are they all working? He said yes. The reality is I have no idea. They did have mud up them, so they weren't in. They're not in great condition, which I'd kept in mind. And I was just trying to figure out how much he was going to ask for them, because certain Sansui amps go for 100, some go for 150, some go for 300. Some of the graphic equalizers go for 70 quid, some of them go for 300. Tuners, I haven't done too much research on that, but typically a good quality tuner, sort of £40 upwards. So even if this is a non-working amp, second-hand parts only, you'll get £20 to £25 for that. I asked how much he wanted for the stack. I said, oh, it'd be perfect for my garage. And he said, oh, £5 each. So I looked, oh, I guess that's okay. And yeah, basically paid £15 for graphic equalizer, tuner, and an amp. I can't plug in the top two yet. I need to rewire them because they're on a European plug. But I have plugged in the amp. The amp does turn on, but I want to give it a proper clean, get the case off it, get my air blaster to blast any dust out of it before I actually give it a proper test. But even if these are non-working, I'll get 25 and get my money back. But the reality is, as it is working, I think I can get a little bit more than that. So conservatively, let's say that's £50, but the reality is probably going to be closer to 100. But I couldn't find any direct comparable, so I do need to have a proper look. The cases aren't in brilliant condition. There are some scuffs and scratches, but once I've given these a good clean up, there is no way I can possibly lose money on the £15 spent. So well worth taking a punt on this. I think it's looking at the hardware. I guess this is sort of early to mid 90s. This was built. I couldn't find any information out on it yet, but that was only me having a look in the car park on my phone. But really pleased with that. Now this is my final throwback. Couple of weeks ago, my first car boots out of the season, I saw this and I thought it was an ibex horn, but it's a kudu horn, so it's like an African antelope type animal, so it had 2 horns, and I just thought it looked really cool. So that's 3 feet long, and I didn't know if it'd have any value, but it looked old. It's got a leather binding at the top, which seemed to split and come off. And I asked how much. He wanted 15. We settled on, I think, 12 or £12.50. And the guy was explaining to me he was a former scoutmaster, and they would use it to basically, it's got a mouth pole, and you could basically use it as a bugle to blow to get the attention of the scouts. And at the time, I wasn't even thinking resale value. I was just thinking that I could wake the kids up or call them in from the garden and really annoy them. So I thought that was pretty cool. But on the day, it was actually quite handy for people's lack of social distancing, because this carrying this about is a bit of a pig, but you could accidentally poke people with it, which is quite handy. So yeah, what I did have a look up afterwards, value wise, I don't know. I think it's antique, not dead sure, but it's very difficult to tell with something of natural, whether it's 10 years old, 50 years old, 100 years old. But yeah, this is really cool. If this was on a taxidermy head with both the horns, 2 3-foot horns on a taxidermied head, you're looking at £300 to £500. This on its own, 30, 40 quid. I'm not that bothered. I just thought it was quite cool. I guess, as you can see, I am not scared of picking up something a little bit random. My main pickups are typically clothing and shoes, because I know what brands and the quality of an item that I can get decent margin on. So I'm very much a clothes and shoes sort of reseller, but I don't just do that. And by having a bit of variety, it means that if there are dips in one side of the market, other things will pick up. It just spreads out my risk, essentially. As a part-timer, I can't afford to muck about with low value items, or low margin items, to be honest, rather than low value. And I try to make sure that I can make around the £20 as a minimum per item on anything I pick up, because I just don't have time for it. I've got a full-time day job, 2 kids, wife, and a house to do up. So I just don't have the time to muck about on the low margin stuff. So I typically will try and get high margin stuff. Most of the time I've got an idea of what's going on, but sometimes I will take a risk. And I guess you can see today, so buying the Japanese pottery set, literally no clue what the value was. I didn't want to walk away and have a look because someone else might pick it up, but I could sense that there's got to be £20 value in that. But if it did go wrong, I've only lost £8. It's not the end of the world. This is only just going to make me it's only going to just about make me my £20 margin, but it's small. I'm happy with that, so I don't see any problem with that. So everything I picked up today should get me at least £20 margin, roughly. This, to be honest, that was a keeper, I think, anyway. So that is just going to be for annoying the kids over the next couple of years. Something that has been useful to me is this Miller's Antiques guide. This one's a little bit out of date now, but it's genuinely useful. So yes, we've got the internet, but this has got a lot of information that you can find quite quickly. I'll put a link to the most up-to-date one in the description, but it's definitely worth considering getting hold of one, because even if you just flick through it, it might just then spark a memory when you're at the car boots and you think, oh, I remember seeing about that. So that has been a really, really useful resource for me. So really, really glad I picked that up a little while ago. But yeah, hopefully you can see that I don't have a niche. Whilst I do tend to go towards clothing and shoes, I'll pretty much pick up anything if I can smell there's a bit of profit in it for me. But yeah, so hopefully that's a useful haul video for you guys. Something a little bit different, a little bit random. Please can you give me a thumbs up, and please can you subscribe if you haven't already. I'm going to try and do these videos whenever I do a car boot sale, and yeah, let's see where we can take this. So yeah, my name's Lee, and this channel is Kola Flipper. So thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.